Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 4 of Peace and Plenty in 20. Today, we're going to be talking all about vacation. I am all set to go here, dressed for the pool, and today's episode is one that I have written about and journaled about many, many times. And today, I'm bringing you inside my brain to those thoughts that I've had over and over and over. And what I'm talking about is when I return home after a vacation, how do I maintain this sense of peace and happiness and joy and all of the wonderful things we feel on vacation? How do I recreate that at home so that it stays with me in my everyday life? Every time I would go away, I would have this recognition of that I function just at a much different level. I'm more patient with my children. I'm able to be more present and mindful and enjoy the days. And yeah, there's the obvious. I mean, anybody would say, you don't have to go to work. There's no schedule. There's no carpooling. There's no making dinner every night. You're not cleaning, doing laundry. And that's true. But in today's episode, I want to explore this a little deeper. I want to dive into both the psychological and physiological effects of this vacation phenomenon that and I assume many of you would love to maintain in our everyday lives, right? And recreate and adopt that same perspective and mindset that you gain while you're away when you're at home, living in your everyday life. So I'm going to break it down first. First, we're going to talk about the mental aspects, okay? And there's a few of those. So the first mental aspect of being on vacation that I notice that is different and why it's different, right? Why do I feel so differently? The first one is permission. And you know, if you know me or you've listened to any of my work, permission is a huge foundational part of what I coach on and of my program. It's one of my pillars. And what I mean by permission is when you're on vacation, you feel like you have this unwritten allowance or permission slip to not have to answer emails, to not have to text people back right away, to not have to do anything because in your head, you're like, I'm on vacation, so I'm off the hook, right? People will understand. And what's kind of crazy about that is the opposite of that is when we're home and we're not on vacation in our everyday lives, we feel this pressure that we have to respond to people. Because somehow it gets twisted in our heads that there's this expectation if we don't reply or we don't respond to someone that we're like being a bad friend or a bad colleague or daughter or whatever, right? So again, there's like this unwritten permission that I feel like I have on vacation where it's like I don't have to respond immediately and it's okay. So that's one mental aspect, right? Another permission that I also feel like I have is like I don't have to cook dinner every night. But if I wanted to, and sometimes I do, like I'm in Florida right now, I'm staying with my mom. And that's when I actually enjoy cooking more. And again, I thought about this. I'm like, why is that? Because it's like there's not the pressure of having to do it. It's that if I want to do it, I can, but I don't have to, right? So, all right, so that's number one is the permission. Number two is I don't have that decision fatigue that normally plagues me on a daily basis, right? There's so many fewer decisions I have to make when I'm away or I'm on vacation. And the decisions that I do have to make are like fun ones, right? Or where are we going to eat dinner tonight? Or which row of chairs, if you're on a beach vacation, which row of chairs? Or which tour do we want to take? Which hike do we want to go on? Those are all fun decisions. And your only worries, your only decisions, your only priorities are like happiness and fun and your family and your loved ones. And it puts you in such this present state and in such a mindset of focusing on what matters in life. And that's the part, like that mental unloading and decluttering just makes it so much clearer. You have such clarity on what matters and what's important, and you don't have to make any decisions to feel like you're supporting your family or your work or your home, right? Does that make sense? So the third thing I want to talk about is the change in routine and environment is also a very powerful part of what makes vacation so different. Excuse me, I'm a little parched. Side note, this is only Pellegrino right now, but side note, you get to like enjoy cocktails, and you can have cocktails at 2 o'clock in the afternoon if you want. And that's speaking back to the permission. I was just mentioning the first mental thing, right? Like I have permission. We can't really do that in a typical day. So that's my point in this number 3, is that it's a change in routine and environment, right? This is so different. So we have to have routines, okay? I think routines are extremely important. But what also happens with routines is that they're just very mundane, right? And it's mentally numbing, which is a positive in the fact that you don't have to think about what you need to do, and that is a good thing. We need habits. But the negative in this scenario is that it is so mentally numbing and mundane. So the reason we like vacations is because this disruption in our pattern, in our routines, is like exciting, right? It's very stimulating to our brain. There's new sensory input. There's lots of new things in our environment. And it really just kind of gets your brain in a state of flow, and in a state of enjoyment, and in a state of the ability to soak everything up, right? So the other thing that being in this change of routine and environment does is there's some psychological difference between, going through your everyday and then having this perspective of being able to step back and help you see things from a distance, right? It changes our perspective when we change our environment. And so again, we have that mental clarity, we have that freedom. And so we're able to see things more easily and solve challenges where when we're caught up and our nervous system is caught up in the everyday urgency and stress, we can't always see clearly, and we can't kind of let go of problems that really aren't that big of a problem. So that's that third piece, this change of routine and environment, that really is the why we get to experience these feelings on vacation. Okay. Now, from a physiological perspective, we have such a shift in our hormones because, number one, our cortisol, which is our stress hormone released by our adrenal glands, our stress hormone drops way down. We don't have that stress, right? Our minds can relax. We can function more efficiently. We don't have that blast or that high level of cortisol. And this lowering helps us shift out of that fight or flight mode, right? And we're in a more easy, calm, balanced, restful place. So that's one part. And then there's also the other hormones and neurotransmitters that are affected positively in terms of, cortisol drops. But when we are on vacation and we are able to get in movement more regularly or be in nature, two things that tend to typically happen on a vacation, when those things happen, not only do we have a rush of dopamine and serotonin, but we have these endorphins now that are being triggered and putting us in this really positive state, right? So again, no matter what kind of vacation you're on, chances are you're going to be just moving more. You're going to likely have some exposure to nature. And those things provide this like triple threat of hormone and neurotransmitter boost, right? So when you're outdoors and when you're moving your body, you're just gonna feel so much differently than when you do sitting at your desk doing your mundane tasks, right? And also when you get that endorphin release, it could be because maybe you're going to the gym on vacation, it could be because you're swimming, it could be because you're hiking, but even just taking a walk, right, or taking a bike ride is going to trigger that. And if you have sun, which I'm not sure if I'm going to actually see this vacation, which I'm fine with because I'm outdoors in fresh air, and again, just that alone is creating such a different state within me, right? Okay, so great. You're like, yeah, okay, that's great. But now how, like, that's what I always have been thinking about and writing about and why I'm here with you. How do we now put that to use in our everyday life? Obviously, we can't always go on vacation, but I want to borrow some of this. This is the way I want to feel in life, right? And we have to be realistic though. But how can I get as much as possible? How can I take as much of it as possible and maintain it or recreate it in my everyday life? So I came up with just a very simple 4-step formula, a vacation state formula, right? What's the formula for putting yourself in that state? How can I at home be in the most possibly de-stressed, mentally spacious place as possible? And I'm going to give you the 4 steps, and then I'm going to give you, as you know, an action for you to try this. Okay. The first thing I'm going to say is you have to set some boundaries, right? You have to have some clear perimeters. In my coaching program, we call them perimeters. You have to have clear separation between your work and your home life and your personal life, okay? And this is one that I personally still struggle with and I'm still working on. What are some ways we can do that? Okay, first of all, it's really important if you go into an office, this is a lot easier because you have a clear time that either you take the train or you drive or you have to be there and you have to leave. If you work from home, this can be a little more challenging. So what we really have to do is have set work times. We have to say, this is when I clock in and this is when I clock out. And if you have a home office or you have a desk or a space where you work, that is also going to be where you sit and work when you're working and not do anything else. Okay, and we'll talk about this. We'll talk about the opposite of this, like where you sit when you relax. Okay, that's one way. Another way to set my brain's going faster than my mouth. Another way to set these clear boundaries is to be sure in your communications, like your digital communications, your email and your texting, that you have separate entities for work and for personal. So email, I'm assuming most of us have that, but if not, that's something I would jump on right away. They need to be separate. If you can separate like text messaging, so for me with my clients, I need to separate my personal text messages. Oh, look at that. My personal text messages, I was trying to get better lighting and this just wasn't doing it. Oh, maybe a little bit. I was trying to get better lighting. Sorry, I got distracted by that. So I have to, on my phone, my personal text messages, my iMessages are what I use for friends and family. For my clients, I use a texting app called Voxer. And there's other ones out there. You can use WhatsApp, but that separates for me. That creates a clear boundary of when I'm working and I'm texting with clients or when I'm texting, in my personal life. And there's tons of apps like that. Speaking of apps, there are also blocking apps, meaning if you're finding that Facebook, Instagram, social media, other apps that you're going on are distracting you, like from when you're supposed to be in work mode, there are tons of app blockers out there that I'd be happy to share with you. Okay, so setting those boundaries, and also having the place where you text and email people, but also the time when you do that. That's really important too. So if you use a block schedule like I do, it's very easy to just set like this like my morning routine block. I'm not texting, no phone. Like it's a no phone zone, right? During my work time, my scheduled block work time, no phone. During my afternoon lunch and unwind time, yes, phone. If you don't do block scheduling, you could still fill it into your calendar. Just know for yourself, or you can use the apps and the features built right into your phone to put it on Do Not Disturb, okay? So I think that's very important. Okay, boundary setting we talked about. So we're going back to your vacation state outline, right? Here's your strategy. So 1 is set boundaries. We just talked about lots of ways to do that. Number 2 is we need to reduce the amount of decisions that you're making, right? How do we do that? How do we get rid of decision fatigue when we are the CEO of the household? As much as you can, we're going to plan ahead or outsource and delegate decisions to reduce that mental load, okay? So that might mean meal planning and meal prepping. I like to do it on Sunday. I plan it out so I don't have to make all those decisions every day, and I have a set plan, right? I also don't plan to cook every night. And also I want to mention with that plan, take the pressure off yourself that if your week changes or something goes awry, that you just go with the flow, okay? But having a plan, instead of at 5 o'clock when you're checking out of work and the kids are like, what's for dinner? And you don't know, that's stressful, okay? You just ended your day and now you're going back into urgency mode when we really want to be winding down. So definitely planning ahead is helpful for that. Laying out your clothes the night before. If you're going to be working out in the morning, lay those out too. Have, again, the least amount of decisions that you have to make pre-done for you, right? The other thing to do is to put systems into place for those choices and decisions that don't require like a lot of your creative energy, like for tasks like paying bills or grocery shopping. Set up a subscription, set up, automatic payments, use AI to make a weekly grocery shopping list or a meal plan. It's so cool. You can go into ChatGPT and say, create a 4-day meal plan. One day we're going to order out based on, picky eaters that like X, Y, and Z or don't like X, Y, and Z, heavy on the protein, or heavy on the fiber. It's amazing. Use those tools. Okay, so that's a lot of ways you can reduce that mental load of making decisions so you have the bandwidth for the spots that you really need more of that energy for, okay? Okay, so we talked about setting boundaries. We talked about decision making. Now let's talk about your environment. And that's what I was saying before. Try to create a space in your house that can almost be like your reset room. It doesn't have to be a room. If you don't have a whole room dedicated to it, I have just like a corner. I call it my peaceful place. And the reason for that is that's like recreating the vacation environment. And so what I do in mine, and I might go over by a minute or two here because this is really important. And what I do in mine is I kind of maintain like vacation rules. Like vacation status quo, meaning there's no work allowed. I don't bring my laptop in. I might have my phone there, but I have it on Do Not Disturb. There's no clutter. I have a little plant, a succulent. You might want to have a photo, like a beach photo or a vacation photo or some other elements of nature. I actually have a second peaceful place now that I think about it. In my basement, I have a little meditation area, and there I have I got on Amazon like a waterfall with stones. Oh my gosh, it's so peaceful. So create your own little retreat with sounds and, sensory things, lighting and scents that are just going to trigger that relaxation. I have a candle in both those areas. Make sure you always have the lighter there too. I have my prayer book. I have my inspirational books. I have my journal. I have what else are there? Like a fiction book, like a fun book that I'm reading. Sometimes also when I'm going to my peaceful place, I'll do like a Pellegrino, either in a wine glass, or I'll do like lemon and blueberries. Make it feel like a little daily vacation, right? You're kind of off duty. It's signaling to your brain, when I'm here, that's what we're doing. And then conversely, when you're at work or in your workspace, that's what you're doing there. We got to create those boundaries and that separation for our brain. Okay. And then step 4 for your vacation plan at home. Manage your expectations, guys. Okay. And this is probably the hardest part for us, but this is also where me as a coach can serve you. Because here are the things I want you to manage. I want you to recognize that not everything needs to be perfect. Not everything goes perfectly on vacation and you're still freaking happy, right? I don't know if I'm going to get sun. I don't care. I'm really just relaxed and joyful. I'm happy to be with 2 of my daughters. I'm in a peaceful state of mind. It doesn't have to be perfect. Every day is not going to be perfect, okay? Practice compassion and give yourself grace every day. We focus on all the things that we didn't get done or the things that went wrong when you need to focus on your wins. I want you to do this if you can. Try to do this daily. At the end of the day, grab a Post-it, grab your notes in your phone. What is one win that you had? If you can do 3, I love that. That's ideal. Focus on the wins, okay? And keep your expectations realistic. Like when you do your to-do lists, like don't overload yourself. And I am the worst offender of this. Just be realistic. And if you struggle with time blindness like I do, this is something to really work on. And again, I am here for you if that sounds like something you need support with. And remember that when you rest and you reset like this, rest is productive. It's not lazy. Many of us have that untrue belief that resting means you're lazy. And that is so counterproductive. Okay, so if you are on vacation this week or the next time you go on vacation, I want you to have this reentry plan. Side note, even if you're not on vacation or not planning on going on a vacation, I want you to still try to implement these strategies in everyday life. This can help anyone, right? So here's your job this week, over the next 7 days. Choose one step from my vacation formula and implement it, okay? Just pick one vacation habit that you're going to be intentional about, whether it's having the environment, setting a boundary around, answering texts and emails, giving yourself permission, whether it's lowering your expectations of yourself. Not everything is going to go perfectly. Whether it's outsourcing some of those decisions so you don't have that fatigue that you normally feel, that you don't feel on vacation. Choose one, try it, come back, report to me, tell me how it went, because this is our one and only life, my friends, and I want you to live it like you're on vacation, peacefully and plentifully. Until next time, cheers.